I never imagined that one phone call could turn my life upside down, but it did. My name is Maya, and I had always believed hard work and loyalty were enough. I wasn't looking for fame or glory. I just wanted to provide for my family and make a living that mattered. I worked as a project manager at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. One of those places where the boss knows everyone's name and everyone thinks they know the boss. I loved my job, not because it made me rich, but because I felt respected. My team looked to me, my clients trusted me, and for years I kept the business running smoothly. But one day, everything changed. It was a Monday morning. I was sipping my coffee, checking emails, when my phone rang. The caller ID read Tom Reynolds. Tom wasn't my boss, technically. He was my wife's older brother, the man who, despite family ties, had managed to climb into a corner office and treat the company like his personal kingdom. He had always been controlling, arrogant, and impatient, qualities I had tolerated only because he was family. "Good morning, Maya," he said with that calm, smug tone that made my blood freeze. "We need to talk. Now." I frowned. Something in his voice told me this wasn't a casual chat. I grabbed my laptop and went into his office. He was leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled, eyes scanning me like a predator measuring prey. "You've done fine work," he said, smiling thinly. "But I've decided we need someone else, someone who can follow directions better. I'm terminating your position, effective immediately." My mind froze. "Wait, what? You're firing me? Just like that?" He shrugged. "Business decision. Family doesn't always help, Maya. Sometimes loyalty can get in the way." I left his office stunned, angry, betrayed. My wife, Jessica, tried to calm me down later. She told me not to overreact, that it was just a job, but I knew better. Tom wasn't just firing me, he was humiliating me. He was testing me, thinking he could push me out cheaply and I would walk away quietly. I didn't. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the city lights. I replayed every moment, every late night at the office, every client meeting I had handled, every crisis I had saved. None of it mattered to him. He thought he could erase me with one phone call. That was when I made my decision. I would not beg, I would not plead, I would not react in the heat of anger. I would plan, I would wait. Because people like Tom always make one mistake. They underestimate you. Over the next few days, I observed. I watched him. I learned his weaknesses, the people he relied on, the secrets he believed no one knew. Every email he sent, every meeting he held, every decision he made, documented. I didn't want petty revenge. I wanted undeniable truth. And when the time came, Tom wouldn't just be surprised, he would be exposed. His arrogance would be his downfall. By the end of the week, I had a plan forming, not just to defend myself, but to teach him a lesson he would never forget. I went to my wife and said, calmly, "I'm not going to let this slide." Jessica was shocked. "Maya, he's family. Maybe you should just move on." I shook my head. If I walk away now, he wins. And if he wins, he'll keep doing this, to me, to anyone who doesn't bow down. I can't let that happen. That night, I opened my laptop, started organizing files, emails, and evidence. Every project I had saved, every contract I had managed, every success he had quietly taken credit for, I was going to turn it into power. Tom had fired me thinking it would hurt me, but he had no idea that by underestimating me, he had set the stage for the biggest mistake of his life. This wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about respect. It was about justice. It was about showing him that loyalty and intelligence are stronger than arrogance. And I was ready. The moment Tom thought I was broken was the moment I became dangerous. For the first week after I was fired, I did nothing that looked like revenge. No angry posts, no legal threats, no late-night calls. I let everyone believe I was defeated. That was on purpose. In Texas, word travels fast in business circles. I knew Tom was telling people his version of the story, that I was emotional, difficult, not a good fit anymore. Some nodded along, others stayed quiet. Silence can mean many things. I used that time wisely. Every morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. I didn't search for new jobs yet. I didn't rush. Instead, I reviewed years of work I had saved. Files, emails, project timelines, client feedback, contracts that carried my signature. Tom had fired me cheaply because he thought I was replaceable. He was wrong. I realized something important. I hadn't just worked for the company, I had built systems inside it. I trained half the team. I handled key clients directly. Many processes only worked because I kept them moving, and Tom knew that. That's why he rushed to fire me before I could speak up. Jessica noticed the change in me. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was calm in a way she hadn't seen before. "You're scaring me a little," she said one night. I smiled softly. Good plans are quiet. She didn't push further. Instead of reacting, I started calling people, not to complain, but to listen. Old coworkers, vendors, 2 clients who trusted me deeply. I asked simple questions. How's the transition going? Did Tom assign someone to replace me? Are things running smoothly? The answers told me everything. Nothing was smooth. Deadlines were slipping, clients were frustrated, meetings were tense. Tom had promoted someone who didn't understand the systems I built. Problems were stacking up, and Tom's temper was making things worse. Then came the first mistake. A former coworker forwarded me an email by accident, or maybe not by accident at all. In it, Tom took credit for a project I had led from start to finish. My name wasn't mentioned once. That email wasn't just insulting, it was proof. I forwarded it to myself and saved it in a folder titled Facts. I wasn't collecting revenge, I was collecting truth. A few days later, I received a call from a client in California. He sounded stressed. "Maya, I know you don't work there anymore, but I don't know who else to talk to. Things are falling apart." I listened carefully. I didn't give advice. I didn't step in. "I'm sorry," I said calmly. "I'm no longer involved." That hurt him, but it helped me, because 2 days later, he sent an email to Tom requesting a formal review of the leadership changes. Pressure was building. Meanwhile, Tom made his second mistake. He underestimated family. He started complaining to Jessica about me, about how I should be grateful, about how I wasn't as important as I thought. Jessica listened quietly. She didn't defend him. She didn't defend me either. She observed. One night, she asked him a simple question. "Can you explain exactly what Maya did wrong?" Tom paused. Then he changed the subject. That silence told her more than words ever could. At the same time, I spoke with a lawyer, not aggressively, just carefully. I showed him what I had. He leaned back and nodded. "You have leverage," he said, "not because you're angry, but because you're organized." That sentence stayed with me. Tom wasn't worried yet. He thought I was licking my wounds. He even sent me a message. "Hope you're doing okay. No hard feelings." I didn't reply. Instead, I prepared something better. I drafted a timeline of every major success I led. I gathered proof of Tom overriding professional decisions for personal reasons. I documented moments where company policy was ignored. Not to destroy the company, to protect myself and expose him if needed. The final piece came unexpectedly, an internal audit request. Someone inside the company had raised concerns. It wasn't me, but I was ready. As I closed my laptop that night, I felt something new. Not anger, not sadness. Control. Tom thought firing me ended the story. It didn't. It only gave me the space to write the next chapter carefully, patiently, and on my terms. And soon, he wouldn't be the one holding meetings. He would be the one answering questions. The moment I saw him smile, thinking he had won, I knew my plan had to be perfect. After weeks of watching, collecting, and waiting, I had learned everything about Tom's patterns, weaknesses, and arrogance. He thought firing me cheaply meant I was out. He thought I'd sulk, complain to Jessica, or fade away. He was wrong. Very wrong. The first thing I did was build a network. I reached out quietly to former colleagues who had quietly left the company because of Tom's behavior. They remembered the truth about my contributions. I didn't ask for favors, I simply confirmed facts, and each confirmation was another piece of the puzzle I was building. Meanwhile, I made sure my personal brand stayed strong. LinkedIn posts showing leadership, problem-solving, and client satisfaction. Emails that subtly highlighted successes. Every move calculated. Public enough to be noticed by those who mattered, private enough to be safe from attacks. Tom, meanwhile, was unraveling. Without me in the office, deadlines were slipping, clients were complaining, internal conflicts, which I had helped mediate, were now escalating. Every small victory I once had in keeping the team calm was gone, and he had no clue how badly he was failing. Then came the crucial piece, the audit. A request had been filed by an anonymous employee, or maybe by someone who still trusted me. Either way, it forced Tom to sit down with upper management to explain decisions I had made flawlessly in the past. Now, suddenly, every mistake was magnified. Every omission he made, every credit he stole was under scrutiny. I didn't push him. I didn't threaten. I simply watched. Next, I subtly reached out to key clients I had handled. I didn't tell them to leave. I simply reminded them of past projects and achievements, offering support if they needed it. The impact was immediate. Clients started questioning changes and asking detailed questions about the new management. The cracks Tom had hidden behind his arrogance began to show. At home, Jessica noticed the change in me. Calm, measured, focused. She didn't ask what I was doing. She didn't need to. She knew, and she respected it. "You're not angry anymore," she said one evening. "You're unstoppable." That word stuck with me, because that's exactly what I had become. Not someone blinded by rage, not someone desperate for revenge. Unstoppable. Then I made my first overt move. I emailed upper management with a clear, professional summary of projects I had led, successes I had achieved, and decisions I had overseen. No blame, no emotion, just facts. And I made sure to attach supporting documents, contracts, and client feedback. The response was subtle at first. Requests for clarification, meetings scheduled to discuss project history. But the seed was planted. The truth couldn't stay hidden for long. Tom, of course, saw my email and immediately called Jessica. "Why is she interfering? Tell her to back off," he demanded. Jessica replied calmly, "She's not interfering, she's just factual." He was furious. He had no idea that factual was a weapon. By the end of the week, the first major shift occurred. Upper management started asking questions that only I could answer. My former colleagues began providing corroborating emails and documents. Tom tried to spin it, but his arrogance blinded him. He didn't see the trap tightening around him. And the beauty of it? Every step I took was legal. Every move was professional. No emotional outbursts, no screaming matches, just strategy, patience, and undeniable proof. That night, as I sat down with my notes, I realized the truth. Revenge doesn't have to be messy. It doesn't need violence or public humiliation. Real power is subtle, quiet, precise, and right now, I held all the cards. Tom thought he had fired me cheaply. He thought he had ended the story. He didn't realize that his downfall was being written calmly, legally, and with meticulous precision. One email, one meeting, one confirmation at a time. By the time anyone noticed, he would already have lost control, and I would be the one standing, smiling quietly, knowing that every plan I had set in motion was about to pay off. The day the board called my name, Tom's face lost all its color. It started with a simple email, short, polite, dangerous. "Can you join us for a review meeting on Thursday?" No details, no drama, just a request. I knew what it meant. For weeks, I had stayed quiet while pressure built around Tom. The audit moved forward. Clients kept asking questions. Former coworkers started speaking up. Upper management finally saw what had been hidden under Tom's loud voice and fake confidence. That Thursday morning, I dressed carefully. Nothing flashy, nothing aggressive. Calm colors, clean lines. I wasn't going to look like someone seeking revenge. I was going to look like someone telling the truth. When I walked into the conference room, Tom was already there. His smile was tight, forced, the kind of smile people wear when they know something bad is coming but hope they can still talk their way out. He didn't look at me. The meeting began quietly. One executive spoke about concerns. Another mentioned inconsistencies. Then they turned to me. "Maya, can you explain how the client workflow system was built?" I did. Slowly, clearly, step by step. I explained how I designed it, how I trained the team, how I handled problems before they became disasters. I showed emails, timelines, client messages thanking me by name. Tom shifted in his chair. Then the questions changed. "Tom, can you explain why these changes were made after Maya left?" He tried. He talked fast, too fast. He blamed staff, he blamed timing, he blamed me. But facts don't get tired. Lies do. The room grew quiet as the evidence stacked up. Projects he took credit for, decisions he changed that caused losses, policies he ignored to fire me quickly and cheaply. Then came the final blow, a client letter. It stated clearly that they were ending their contract because of Tom's leadership, and specifically named me as the reason they had trusted the company in the first place. No anger, just honesty. Tom tried to laugh it off. "This is being blown out of proportion," he said. No one laughed with him. The meeting ended without shouting, without insults, just a promise that action would be taken. When we stood up, Tom finally looked at me. "You planned this," he said quietly. I met his eyes. "No, you did." That afternoon, Jessica called me. They put him on leave, pending review. I closed my eyes for a moment, not in joy, in relief. The truth was finally louder than his voice. Over the next few days, more stories came out. Employees spoke freely now. The audit found more problems. Tom's image as the strong leader cracked completely. He stopped calling, stopped texting. He knew it was over. One evening, Jessica sat beside me on the couch. "I'm sorry, I should have seen it sooner." I took her hand. "You see it now, that's what matters." Revenge didn't feel the way movies show it. There was no cheering, no fireworks, just peace. I didn't destroy Tom's life. I simply stopped protecting him, and without my silence, everything he built on lies collapsed. But the story wasn't finished yet. Because losing his job was only the beginning, there was still one more step. And it would decide who truly lost everything. The moment Tom realized he couldn't control anything anymore, he understood the cost of arrogance. After the board placed him on leave, the company began a full investigation. Emails, project files, client contracts, and employee statements. All of it was reviewed. Every corner of the company that Tom had tried to control or manipulate was exposed. He tried to defend himself, but the evidence was clear. Every project I had led, every deal I had saved, every system I had built, all of it proved that he had not only underestimated me, but had tried to erase my contributions. I watched it all quietly, from a distance. I didn't want to celebrate in front of him. There was no satisfaction in seeing him fail if it was done with noise or drama. True power, I had learned, is silent, precise, and undeniable. I had spent weeks preparing every detail, and now it was all unfolding exactly as I had planned. Employees started coming forward. They shared stories of how Tom had taken credit for their work, how he had manipulated deadlines, and how he had threatened them to keep quiet. Suddenly, the company saw him not as the confident, untouchable executive he pretended to be, but as a reckless man who thought he could push people around and escape consequences. Tom tried to call me several times. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Everything I had done so far was enough to ensure that the company and its board had all the proof they needed to act. Even my wife, Jessica, noticed the calm confidence I carried. "You've changed," she said one evening as we sat in our apartment, sipping coffee. "You're unstoppable now." I smiled. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't driven by anger anymore. I wasn't reacting to his arrogance or his insults. I was acting with clarity, planning every step carefully. That was what made the difference. The company didn't take long. By the end of the week, Tom was officially removed from his position. He was stripped of responsibilities, benefits, and access to client accounts. The board issued a formal statement highlighting the importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical management, indirectly confirming his mismanagement. The news spread quickly. Employees who had once feared him now whispered in the hallways, relieved and emboldened. Clients reached out to apologize for any confusion and expressed gratitude for my professionalism. The reputation Tom had tried to build for himself crumbled in days, and I realized something essential. He had underestimated not only me, but the power of truth. I didn't just gain justice, I gained respect. And that respect wasn't something Tom could take away with threats, anger, or manipulation. But I didn't stop there. I knew that a public downfall wasn't enough. Tom's arrogance was deeply ingrained, and if I wanted to make sure he never tried something like this again, I had to protect the future. I worked with the board to restructure responsibilities in the company. I recommended qualified leaders, including some of my former teammates who had been overlooked or silenced. Every move was subtle, professional, and strategic. No one could accuse me of personal vendettas because everything was rooted in logic, facts, and the company's best interest. Tom, meanwhile, was left to face the consequences of his actions. His reputation was tarnished beyond repair. Friends in the industry distanced themselves. He tried reaching out to old colleagues and clients to salvage relationships, but no one responded. The arrogance that had once made him untouchable was now his downfall. I didn't need to confront him directly. The law, the evidence, and the truth had done the work I could never have done with words alone. That night, I sat down with Jessica and said, "Sometimes the best revenge isn't yelling or drama. It's calm, it's careful, and it's undeniable." She nodded, smiling. "You taught me something important, Maya. You showed me that patience and strategy are more powerful than anger." We spent the evening planning our next steps, not for revenge, but for growth. I had reclaimed control of my career, my reputation, and my peace of mind. Tom's attempts to humiliate me had failed spectacularly, and all the while I had remained professional, intelligent, and measured. Weeks passed. I started new projects, and the company thrived under careful leadership. Clients returned, employees were motivated, and all the while I kept my distance from Tom, letting the results speak for themselves. Eventually, he contacted me one last time. His voice was strained, regretful. "Maya, I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you like that. I, I just wanted to protect my position." I listened quietly. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Then I shook my head. "Tom, it's too late. You chose arrogance over honesty. You chose ego over integrity. Now you have to live with the consequences." That was the last conversation we had. I didn't need more. Revenge had been served, not with anger, not with threats, but with truth, patience, and professionalism. Looking back, I realized that the night he fired me was a turning point. It forced me to see not only his true nature, but my own potential. I didn't need to fight him loudly. I didn't need to prove myself to the world. I simply needed to act strategically and let reality do the rest. In the end, I gained more than revenge. I gained respect, security, and confidence. I had taken control of my life in a way that no one, not even my arrogant brother-in-law, could ever take away. Tom's downfall was complete. His future uncertain. My future? Bright, full of opportunity, and built on the strength and intelligence that he had underestimated. I had been fired cheaply, underestimated, and humiliated, but by acting calmly, legally, and strategically, I turned the situation into a victory that was far more satisfying than any angry confrontation could have ever been. And that is how I won. Not just over Tom, but over fear, anger, and the idea that someone else could ever dictate my worth.